Guys, welcome to our newest episode of Surprise We Both Love Movies. This week we're going to be reviewing the new movie from Pixar and Disney, Soul, starring Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey from Saturday Night Live fame. Now the movie Soul starts out with a middle-aged character. He's a teacher, he's a jazz musician, and he teaches music at his school. After the course of a series of good news, he finds himself suddenly on the other side of life. After he finds out he's on the other side of life, he meets some characters and some different souls that kind of show him maybe the way that he's living, or maybe the things that he wants are not that important to the way that he lives his life. And it's really an interesting story. It's unique. It's one of a kind. I've never seen anything like it. But Aaron, you're the big Pixar computer animation guy. What was your first kind of take on this movie, Soul?
All right, so here's what I thought about Soul. I thought the voice cast was really well done. In fact, this is my favorite performance by Jamie Foxx. I think he did a phenomenal job. If I didn't know it was him, I wouldn't have known it was him. He did a really good job acting and bringing life to the character of Joe. The only other main character really in the film was Tina Fey's character. She was known as 22 in the movie. She has such a nondescript voice that you could have cast anybody. I would have rather had somebody where you could recognize their voice. Did she do a terrible job with the character? No, but her character is really the fault I found with the movie, because she's like a pre-existence character. She hasn't had a body yet. She hasn't come to Earth. And there's this is where kind of my problem with the movie comes. It felt soulless to me. I didn't feel anything at the end of the movie. And I had to go back and watch it twice because I'm like, did I miss something?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of feeling in the movie. I thought it fell flat, like a movie that was rushed to get finished. Like they threw it together and said, we'll do some beautiful visuals, which they had. Amazing music. It had some really good mood music that I really enjoyed. But it's the story that killed it for me. I didn't think it had clear direction.
So where did you think, like I said, to my point, the main character, he's around our age. He's
right.
He's got a goal. He has a dream that he wants, and
Yep.
He hasn't ever reached that dream. And so in the meantime, he's teaching. His mom's disappointed. I think she's played by Felicia Rashad.
Yep.
And his dad has passed away, and he was a musician. I mean, you're an artist, or you were an artist when you were younger, and we used to know, when you're a kid, and you never technically accomplished that dream artistically. So were you able to relate? That to me seems like that would have been something that you would have been able to directly relate to and go, you know what? My soul maybe wasn't music, but it was, artistry and drawing. So you couldn't put that and connect that to yourself?
You are absolutely right, because I actually went through a phase where I was an artist, I was a writer, and I majored in computer animation in college to actually do that. Right. Actually wanted to work for Pixar.
Right.
But then I'm now on the other side of it doing voice acting. So I'm able to scratch that itch. It took me a while to get to where I was supposed to be, but I'm where I'm supposed to be. And so, yes, that part was relatable.
Okay.
The problem I had with the film, though, was the character of 22. It brought us on this journey in a weird direction that I thought was unnecessary. I think it should have focused on Joe and more of his journey, but it was really about Tina Fey's character's journey, not his. And I'm not going to say what happens at the end of the movie. It was wacky, the way in which they went down that road to get there. And he died so many times in the movie. I'm like, man, every time he dies, what are these people on the street thinking every time his body's there? And he disappeared from the hospital, and all of this takes place like in a 24-hour period. And I'm like, what are these people thinking as he drops dead right there in the subway? So I had issues with the way the story unfolded. Did I hate the movie? No, I didn't hate the movie, but it didn't have an emotional connection. I thought it was a disconnect in that regard.
And here's what I'll say about that is that my son told me about this movie, and he's 22 now. And he was telling me, hey, Dad, this is really good. You guys should review this movie. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I found myself in that same situation where you are, where I was going, you know what? This doesn't quite resonate like it did with like my son and people that are his age. Because I've heard other people that have said, wow, this is really good. And I think that's what the 22 character represents. we're at a point in our lives where we probably already feel like either we've gotten to where we want to, or we haven't, or we're close to it, or whatever. But I think for the younger generation, they really saw something in this movie that maybe we couldn't feel. And I think that the 22 character embodied that by saying, you know what, hey, I'm not sure of my direction in my life. I don't know where I'm going. I don't want to do this, or this. I just know that there's something out there that everybody wants, and I don't necessarily want it. And I think that's the part that you and I, as 40-plus-year-old men, don't get, but that totally worked for the younger generation. I don't know if you had a little feedback maybe from some younger people where that matched up to as well.
My family didn't watch it. We actually were going to watch it together, and we just never got around to it because COVID hit so many of us. We've been down, so we never got the chance to sit together as a family and watch it. That's going to be a good test. We may have to do a follow-up on this because to me, that's what led this into a weird direction. And I didn't like the direction it took. I thought it should have focused more on Joe because, it was about Joe finding out what his purpose was, but hers as well. This is what was weird, though. It's the way they portrayed the pre-existence and the way when he died and he went to heaven and how he was able to skirt the system so easily. I'm like, it seemed too convenient. Everything in the movie seemed like it seemed to me like they rushed the story. That was my issue. Like they threw it out there, said, it's going to look beautiful. We're going to make people like this. And it may resonate to a younger audience, but I don't think it's going to resonate to older people. And I still feel a lot towards these movies. Like Onward was a movie I did not expect to like at all. And I ended up loving it. I thought it had really good heart to it. You felt for these kids and the journey they went on. I didn't feel that in this. I felt rather flat when I got done, but I didn't hate it. It was beautiful.
No, and I agree with you. Like I said, to a certain extent, I agree with you that it didn't quite, hit it home for me either. But it definitely had soul. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was soulless, but it just didn't necessarily capture my spirit. So overall, what did you think of this movie? What ratings would you give it as both a movie and a film?
Animated movies are quite different for me because of all the different nuances that go into doing an animated film. There's the graphics, the look of the film, there's the music, there's the voice acting, a lot of different parts. It's more than watching just a traditional film. If I had to give this a rating for an overall package, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. Would I watch it if it was ever on? Yeah, it's actually enjoyable to watch. It's beautifully done. Great voice cast. I love the music more than anything. It had really good mood music that was very appropriate for what they were doing.
All right.
As a film, probably a 6.
Okay.
It's not in the middle because there's definitely something to be garnered. There was definitely somewhere they were trying to go with it. I just didn't think they were effective in getting there. Right. But there is more to be had in the film, and I did get more out of it on the second viewing. What would you give it?
All right, for me, as a movie, I thought it was entertaining all the way through. It kept my interest from beginning to end. I didn't remember there being any lulls of any kind. It was well acted. It was beautifully done. The music was good. So I can give it a solid 8 as a movie. And as a film, like what we spoke about earlier, it kind of missed a little bit for me, but I could see what it was trying to say. And while it might not resonate with me, I could see how it can resonate with others. So I'm willing to go ahead and probably go on a little limb here and give it an 8 as a film as well. So it was overall enjoyable experience. And no matter what, it was entertaining throughout.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Well, that's all we have for this week, you guys. Thank you for joining us and continue to listen to us on all of our formats, both audio and video. I'm Lamont.
I'm Aaron.
And we'll see you guys next week.